Now, this story is about a young lady that abandoned her kids for 5 years, and she lived in Michigan. And also, it really bugs me that she lived only 6 blocks from them and never let them come out. So, we're about to listen to the story. This young lady here is a wonderful storyteller. So, here's her channel here, and I want you guys to check her out. I love her, so I'm about to react to her telling the story about this young lady abandoning her kids.
Today's case takes us to Pontiac, Michigan, and involves possibly one of the most selfish mothers that we've ever heard of.
Everybody's upset about it, like, oh my God, this is right in our neighborhood.
Commercials you see where animals are living in very deplorable conditions will kind of take that times 10.
Please note that this content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share.
If this is starting to already sound familiar to you, maybe you caught some of the live streams I did about this case. I've linked them below for you if you do want to check them out in case you missed it. But you don't need to watch that because today we're going to do a full recap and I'm going to be sharing all the new information with you. So just so that you know what this case is about, Kelly Bryant, a 34-year-old mother, hard to say the word mother in this case, faces charges that could
Do y'all see her? Do y'all see her? Look how gorgeous she look. And look, watch the conditions her kids was in.
thankfully send her to prison for the rest of her life. She is accused of abandoning her 3 children, a boy aged 15 and 2 girls, one aged 13 and one aged 12, in a filthy, and I think that's an understatement, condominium at 660 Lydia Lane in Pontiac, Michigan for nearly 4 years, starting around 2020 or 2021. In a recent court hearing, which just so happened to be a preliminary hearing where the judge had to decide whether this case was going to trial or not, and guess what? It's going to trial, and we're following this very closely. One of the detectives read this mother's shocking words where she said, "I sacrificed my children, probably." Probably.
You did? I can't make this up.
Oh my. So this is a case, just so that you know what you're signing up for, of children who were left to fend for themselves, the horrific conditions that they endured, and of course now the legal battle unfolding in Oakland County. She's definitely got a defense attorney who is fighting very hard for her and says lots of things in the courtroom that could upset some people, even though she's just doing her job, to minimize the abuse, the neglect that these children suffered is just always so heartbreaking to hear. So welcome back to another episode of Grizzly True Crime. My name is Gisela K, and let's have a look at this timeline and all the new details that we've just learned from this hearing. On February 14th of 2025, yes, Valentine's Day, Oakland County deputies responded to a welfare check at 660 Lydia Lane. It was the landlord who'd called them because he was worried over unpaid rent, which was from October of 2024, and he had had no contact
And
with
I'm so
Kelly
glad he did, because he saved them kids' lives. Honestly.
Bryant since December, so he'd called for help. So deputies did not know what they would find inside this house. In fact, when they went in initially, based on just the odor alone, they thought they were looking for a dead body. A previous welfare check the day before had failed. So deputies had been out there the day before. They tried to look through the windows to see if they could see anything, if they could get hold of anyone, and they just couldn't. So here they were again, being called out again. And this time, of course, they would have to enter into this apartment to see what the heck was going on, because now it was really a cause for concern. So this time, a locksmith opened the garage door. And what deputies found was unimaginable.
Just a few days ago, Oakland County Sheriff deputies came to this house behind me to do a welfare check on a woman. But when they got inside, they didn't find her, but they did discover her 3 kids who had been abandoned, living in deplorable conditions.
Deputy Quincy Curtis testified at this recent May 16th of 2025 preliminary hearing about the scene. He described a foul odor hitting him immediately and noticed a large mold stain on the garage ceiling. So already then he was concerned about what he's going to find in that room above the garage.
Police were astonished to find anyone in the location because it appeared to be uninhabitable, with piles of garbage and refuse several feet high, including large amounts of human excrement.
Detective John Brish, who later interviewed Kelly Bryant, the mother, said, "I'd never smelt a home that smelt that bad without a decomposing body present." And just imagine 3 children were living in these conditions. As detectives made their way into the apartment and started trying to meander around with all these piles of trash around, they said the conditions just got worse and worse. There were pizza boxes, food wrappers piled up to 4 feet high, like trash piled up to 4 feet high. They said feces smeared the floors and staircases. Cobwebs hung from the ceilings. The kitchen was buried under trash. The sink was completely unusable. The bathroom's toilet overflowed with feces, was no longer in working order, and the bathtub was also filled with waste. And that's where the 2 youngest children were eventually found hiding, in that bathtub. They continued to walk through this apartment, and they said the 3 bedrooms had very little furniture. Just one stained mattress, which we actually saw them remove from the house when everybody was wearing their hazmat suits, littered all around with wrappers. There was no toilet paper, no soap, no hygiene products found anywhere in this home. As Deputy Curtis searched for signs of life, he heard crying coming from a locked bathroom. Moments later, the oldest child, the 15-year-old boy, emerged from the bedroom, shirtless, in soiled pants, his toenails so long that he could barely walk. And shame, he put his hands in the air as if he was about to be arrested, and they said he looked truly terrified.
What was his demeanor when you approached him?
Nervous. He was talking very fast, and he seemed frightened.
And ultimately, was he able to get the other children out of the bathroom?
Yes.
What did you observe happening?
The bathroom door opened, and I observed 2 females, children in the bathroom. They appeared hunched over. Their arms were connected.
That is so
staying
sad.
very close.
That is so sad. How can a mother that loves her kids do this? Make that make sense.
Close to each other. They would just cry. I couldn't really understand what they were trying to say. They were both looking down and wouldn't look at us, and they kept their arms tight to their chest. The bathroom was completely filled with trash and feces on the floor. The toilet was completely filled up to the brim with feces, and they were coming off the top. The bathroom tub had feces in it as well.
Now, this scene was so grim that obviously these responding deputies called for backup. They called in a whole bunch of officers to also arrive at the scene, but told them, you need to wear hazmat suits if you're going to enter this house. The detectives spoke to the boy and asked them, questions. Who's living here? Who's crying in the bathroom? He said his sisters were in the bathroom. They said he spoke very fast. And eventually they asked him to ask his sisters to come out of the bathroom, which they were very scared to do. When they emerged, they said that they were hunched over, arms linked, crying, covered in filth. And they said their hair was matted with what appeared to be feces. Detective Curtis said they would only look at the floor, they wouldn't look up, they wouldn't talk, and that they were really scared and also struggling to walk, also with such long toenails. And this obviously reflected years of neglect. Detectives could tell that very quickly.
At that time, I turned back around and addressed that locked door. I let them know I was the police, and I was not going to hurt them. They were safe, but they needed to come outside so we could check on their welfare.
Did they?
At first, they did not come outside. I was giving them multiple orders to come outside. At that time, a door from the bedroom behind me opened, and the oldest child exited that bedroom. He had his hands up in the air. He identified himself to us. I told him to tell the children to come outside, which he ordered them to come outside.
When they were asked to spell their names, detectives said they really struggled and they had to talk to each other to try their level best to spell out their names. Now, of course, we, the public, do not know their names because they're minors and they are protecting them. In fact, when Kelly, the mother, was initially arrested, her last name was not being shared publicly to protect the identity of the children. But obviously, since then, there's been lots of court hearings, there's been the preliminary hearing, there's been documents, and now her name is publicly known as Kelly Bryant. So, what the hell were the children doing in this house alone? They told detectives that they'd lived there for about 4 years alone, allegedly under their mother, Kelly Bryant's strict orders to never leave the house under any circumstances. She instilled in them, allegedly, a deep fear of strangers, including child S offenders. She made them really afraid of those. Obviously, I know children should be. I'm just saying, wow, you really instilled this fear in them. You made them so scared that they didn't
That is
go
so
outside
sad.
for 4 to 5 years. The boy had previously said that he'd gone out twice. Once was
Wow.
just to feel the grass, just for a second to feel the grass, and he
Wow.
scurried back inside. And another time, I think he said he went to check the mailbox.
Up until this point, many of us believed that the 3 children living in this home had no contact with anyone except for their mother for nearly 5 years. Well, today we learned that at least a handful of times they did call out to a
Oh.
neighbor.
Just, they say, hey, nice car. But, and I might wave back at them, but that's it. There's no way that I could have known that they were
Very
in a
terrible.
terrible situation.
The mother apparently also blackmailed them, so I'm sure we'll find out more details at the trial. There's no trial date that's been set yet, but of course we'll keep an eye on it. They survived on weekly food deliveries because one is going to ask, well, how did they survive for so long with absolutely no care? And it means no schooling, no friends, nothing normal, no playtime, obviously no parental figure, no bath time, nothing. How did they survive? Okay, so their mother would send them weekly food deliveries, often just a loaf
They
of
survived
bread.
by the grace of God. They survived by the grace of God. That's exactly how they survived.
Ordered via apps such as DoorDash. Yeah, isn't that so sweet and personal? Oh my word. This case makes me really mad and really sad, of course. But it's just like when I read all of this about this
Me
mother, it
too.
just makes me really upset. Now, here's the other effed up thing. This mother gave her son a cell phone so that he could text her when their supplies were running really low. And I mean, it was already low. Even when she just sent over food, it was a loaf of bread, really? Or one pizza to share for a
Girl,
week? Something.
that is a very sad case of a mother. You don't even treat your dog like that.
Like that. So, okay. Obviously, when they looked at the phones, detectives noticed that the boy had his mother saved as a contact as world's greatest
Wow.
mom, which I would speculate she saved it
The
that
world's
way. While
greatest mom, girl. You even know better than that.
she labeled them in her phone as my oldest, kid 1, kid 2,
Really?
which
Like that don't mean nothing to her.
sounds almost like they each had a number, but I don't think so. But wow, in her phone, it's my oldest, kid 1, kid 2. Yeah, that's how connected she is to her
Sad.
own children. The children were unenrolled from school since 2021, and they said that they passed their time playing TV games and games in general. They were isolated from, of course, friends, family, neighbors, anyone they'd ever met in school. And nobody was even aware that they were living there all by themselves. Neighbors didn't know. One neighbor actually said that he'd seen before the boy in the window saying, "Nice car." And he said, "Thanks." And that was it. He never assumed anything else. No one saw parents coming and going. They did sometimes see food being delivered, but they didn't really think anything of it.
Johnson says, how could he know that the room the children were calling from was stacked 4 feet high
Oh
with
my
mold,
God.
feces, and trash? He says
This
he
is
never saw them outside, but he
this
saw
is the
their mother,
worst.
34-year-old Kelly Marie Bryant.
She would be outside for hours and hours with a friend.
Johnson says Bryant was always in a car with a friend. He never saw her go inside, and he wonders, who was that friend? Did they know who Bryant was hiding?
Okay, so I think you're going to ask what we're all going to ask at this point is, how did the rest of their family, grannies, grandpas, aunts, uncles, anyone else, how did they not know? Well, Kelly had sold them some tall stories, all of them getting what she even called cover stories. When she spoke to detectives, she said that they were with babysitters, that they were with the grandmother, that they were with their biological father.
A bold-faced lie. That was the biggest fib of the year.
Yeah, she came up with all sorts of crap to continue to keep up this lie that really what she'd done was abandon her children and left them in a house alone.
Thank you. Make that make sense. We cannot make this up.
For 4 to 5 years while she was living her best life. I mean, she was shaking her ass all over Instagram.
She said she was shaking her ass on Instagram. I know it. I know it. You know, being on Instagram, I'm Lord, please forgive me. I've tried not to be mean here, but this makes me mad.
I think her account is still up if you really want to go look. She was going to eat out. She was potting. She was dating. She was doing her hair, her nails, buying clothes, all of that while her kids were suffering in absolute
She need to get
filth.
life in prison for doing them kids like that. You could have gave them to someone if you didn't want them.
Now, here's the other sad thing. The girls were age 12 and 13, and they had apparently already started their menstrual cycles, and they told detectives they only received pads once. So imagine trying to figure that out by yourself. Like, no one's teaching them what that is or what's going on. And then the mother just, I don't know how she had that delivered or what happened. Just once? You're throwing a pack of pads at them? Really?
So sad.
Our first focus is in trying to make sure these kids get what they need to begin the process of moving forward. The second very important part of this is, how did 3 kids fall through the cracks so terribly? How did the community, relatives, the schools, no one knew to reach out to us? How did that happen? And so that's going to be a big part of what I've already directed our investigation.
It should never have happened. Never. Never. This is very uncalled for.
To figure out.
Obviously, when the children were rescued, which detectives didn't know what they're going to find in that house, but when they were rescued, they were taken to a hospital, which was McLaren Oakland Hospital. And the staff there said that they were truly shocked.
We're told that these kids were actually inside of this house for years, at least since 2021. This is the house behind me
And
that
I've
has
spent
that
summer,
orange.
winter, summer, fall, at least 5 times alone. Think about that. That I could never do my child like that. I could never do my baby like that. Never. So sad.
Sticker right there on the window, but we're told these kids were only 12, 13, and 15. Now, authorities, they said that the mom would drop off food from time to time.
They said the children did not know how to flush a toilet or how to use a toothbrush. Okay, now here comes the trolls or the victim blamers who will say, oh, please, these children were 10 years old? Like like 7, 8, and 10 when they got there. Surely they would know how to flush a toilet or use a toothbrush. Do not victim blame over here, okay?
Because that's things that we have to teach our kids to do. They don't know what that is if they never did it before. Just because the mother was there 5 years ago beforehand don't mean she taught them how to do this. It's really small-minded for you to think that they know how if they don't know how. It's like, stop being victim shaming and try to give the kids encouragement to learn how. It's just ridiculous how people mind run.
Okay, we do not know what their lives look like before they were even
Exactly.
put in the situation. It must have been pretty bad for these 3
How to
kids
flush a
to
toilet.
not know how to flush a toilet
Thank you.
or use a toothbrush. They said that when they brushed their teeth, then there would be blood
They
in the
got
sink.
pyrrhia gums and all kind of gum disease because they ain't even seen a dentist. You got to take your kids to see the dentist, but they had all kind of toothaches.
Which obviously showed all the signs of the dental neglect. I mean, they never went to doctors, dentists. They were never taken care of, right? But of course, at this preliminary hearing, the defense attorney argued that the blood in the sink may not have been a result of the children brushing their teeth, because Detective Curtis didn't watch the children brush their teeth. The children were obviously very hungry, but they were terrified. So detectives eventually got them to say that yes, they would like to have a Little Caesars pizza. But the thing is, they wouldn't eat it with anyone else in the room, and they wouldn't eat it individually either. They waited for all 3 of them to be together, even if the pizza was there, and let's say it was the son and the pizza. He's waiting for his 2
Oh,
sisters,
that's so sweet.
or the other way around. That's just how they described it. They'd all wait for each other, the 3 of them in one room with the pizza, and everybody else had to leave. Otherwise, they wouldn't eat it. They were too scared. A pediatrician, Dr. Smith, also testified at this preliminary hearing, and she said that she performed a basic examination of the children at the outpatient clinic following their stay at the hospital. She said that she examined all 3 children individually and that she was verbalizing every step that she was going to take next, just to make sure that, they knew what to expect, because she could tell that they were really scared. She told the children to let her know if they were uncomfortable or if they felt any pain. All 3 children denied being examined in their private areas, so Dr. Smith was, however, able to examine them head to toe everywhere else. Dr. Smith said that the oldest child was very quiet, didn't smile much, had brown spots in his mouth, possibly lesions, and it was the middle child that she said was a little bit more high-spirited, but she was telling Dr. Smith the whole time that she just didn't understand why this was even happening. Like, what is the problem?
Yes.
Which, that is so sad to think of what their normal was. Dr. Smith said that the youngest child was so weak.
Yes, it is.
That
It is
they
so
had
sad. It's so sad. I mean, she think that's the norm. She like, what's going on? This is how we live. And she just don't know that it's wrong on all levels.
had to help her up every way if they needed to sit on a chair or sit on the bed to be examined. And she was so weak that she also couldn't even hold her own head up. She the whole time
See,
had it
that
down.
goes to show you she never went to therapy. She never got her neck checked. She never got massage. She never got, my neck hurt just thinking about it. Let me crack my neck. Oh, yes. I'm my own chiropractor. Excuse me.
And they were very worried about her, of course. They said all 3 children had very low levels of vitamin D, of course, not ever seeing the sun for 4 to 5 years, and that they needed to be treated for that immediately.
And when the kids came down,
Do y'all
they escorted
see that doggone bed? Bed mattress, Lord. Please give them kids the strength to get over this, Lord Jesus. I feel so bad for them. That bed is a mess. Oh, God.
them out. They couldn't even walk. They never seen outside in years.
And when Dr. Smith asked what their daily routine was, they said, wake up, use the phone or tablet, sleep, eat, sleep. That's it.
I know they was depressed. Because even when you have low vitamin D levels, you're depressed. Because I'm always depressed around season change. When we go out of summer into fall, and it's so depressing. And I know they was depressed just going to bed, getting up. Oh, Lord, I know you was with those kids. I know you was with them.
No mental stimulation, no education. They apparently had a TV in the house, and of course they had this phone and they had a tablet. So they had some technology, but I mean, if anyone's going to argue that that's not neglect, oh my.
You better not say that, because giving internet is not the big part. Being with them and showing them everything that they need to do to survive, like doctors, dentists, foot specialists, groomed, baths, mother tucking them in at night, going to school, playing with their friends. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about.
Yourself in that situation. It's horrific to think of everything that they missed out on for all those years. Of course, the defense attorney had to argue that half of Michigan's population would have a vitamin D deficiency, so it could be normal, could because of that. And again, I know the defense attorney is just doing her job.
That's not normal. The reason why they got low vitamin D level is because they were stuck in a house for 5 years. And it's not normal.
Okay, I'm aware. I'm just thinking of the children, and just some of those remarks are like, sure, okay. You know, and it's even more upsetting, infuriating, really, to see Kelly Bryant in the courtroom smiling her ass off. It's terrible.
She thinks it's cute. Unless she picked up some weight too. You should, because you can't go nowhere but in that jail cell eating them ramen noodles.
So the defense attorney also said that Dr. Smith is not a licensed psychiatrist or psychologist, and she can't make a judgment on their mental well-being. So now let's get to more details of the phone data that we had learned about from this hearing. So an investigator from the prosecutor's office testified that he extracted phone data from Kelly Bryant's phone and the one given to the children. The text messages exchanged between mother and children were mostly about food delivery. There's no, how are you, sleep tight, love you, are you okay? Nothing
she didn't
like
care.
that. It's just when they're running low on supplies, then the son's responsibility was to let her know, and she would have DoorDash, for example, drop off a loaf of bread. Now, one example of a text message that they shared at this preliminary hearing was that Kelly had texted her son, there, hurry, let me know when you got it. Like telling them to hurry, quickly open the door, grab it, snatch it, and get back in. In another text, she wrote, I don't feel comfortable with you opening the door without me knowing. Oh my goodness. The coercive control in this case is horrific. The oldest child had actually managed to connect with a girl online and spoke to her about exchanging gifts for Christmas. And when the girl asked for his address, he actually gave it to her. But then he told his mother, you know what the mother said?
How you going to exchange gift with somebody when you ain't even been outside in 5 years? And make that make sense. How you been to a mall? I know you ain't got no Amazon Prime membership, none of that.
I mean, we all know about the dangers of online interactions, right? I mean, that could really have been anyone. Worst fears here could have come true, even though this is already a terrible situation. But you know what the mother said? She said, you should have asked first. I would have gave you an address, but not that one. Oh, that address is so top secret that It's just so abnormal. This mother is talking to a 15-year-old son like, oh, you met a girl online? Okay, but just
See
don't leave
that?
that address, okay?
Unbelievable.
You have to give out a fake one or another one where I live. Just a stone's throw away, because she kind of, it sounds like, prided herself on living pretty close by, just keeping an eye on the property, but not actually her children. She hadn't seen her daughters in years.
She's from here, she's from there. We don't know where she resides.
So many have been wondering where Bryant herself lived while her children sat in isolation. Court documents show 2 addresses. At one of them, I talked to a woman who confirmed Bryant was living here.
Were you guys living together?
The house is about 6 minutes away from where Bryant's children were.
6 minutes away. 6 minutes. And she could not even be home with her own kids. That got to be something mental, very much so, because you got to be mental to do that to your kids. Unbelievable.
The woman behind the door telling me that Bryant always told them the kids were with their dad, and Bryant actually played with other people's kids.
No, you didn't.
The 3
play with other people's kids and yours over there suffering. You should not have fixed your mouth to say that, period. Not one time.
children, ages 15, 13, and 12, are currently staying with their maternal grandpa.
Now remember, the day before the children were actually discovered, there was also a welfare check. And remember, the police couldn't get in? Well, on that day, the oldest had texted his mother to say that the police were there and they were all scared. And what did she tell them to do? To hide. And
she said she told them to hide. That's all they can do in that junk, filthy house they was in.
Be quiet. Under no circumstances answer the door. Avoid the police. So, yeah, this is definitely all going to be evidence at her trial. Now, for those of you interested in the legal proceedings that, Kelly Bryant's already faced and will continue to face as we prepare for her to go to trial, Kelly Bryant was arrested on that same day, February 14th of 2025, and she was initially held on a $250 million bond, which was one of the highest ever. And it
She said $250 million bond. When someone gets that kind of bond, they don't murk somebody or took a to somebody. Girl, you getting life. That is a big bond. I thought she said 200,000. She said $200 million. Wow.
Criticized as excessive. I think none of us really minded hearing that.
Exactly.
No bond would have been great. But on March 7th, Judge Cynthia Thomas Walker reduced it to $50,000 cash. We were all worried, like, oh crap, is she going to get out? But she was not able to postpone.
Who got that kind of money? Especially not us black folks don't have that kind of money just sitting around. Period. I barely can pay my rent. If that's the case, I would have paid my rent off. We don't have that kind of money, so she ain't getting out. She's gonna be right there.
And so she's still in jail, thankfully. So the conditions for that, if she posted bond, would have been no contact with minors and electronic monitoring. But yeah, again, she wasn't able to, even though, wow, I'm so glad that nobody has bailed her out here. I hope they don't. So she remains in jail, awaiting her trial. There's no trial date yet. On March 11th of 2025, prosecutors added, and here we go, here's some new details as well, 3 counts of welfare fraud. We could have guessed this coming.
So you stealing food stamps too, girl? And medical, well, we ain't worried about medical insurance because you didn't take them to no doctor. But you was stealing food stamps and cash assistance.
Right? Alleging that she misappropriated $29,397 in public assistance meant for the children, from 2022 to 2025. She violated court orders as well by making 10 calls to the children's caregiver, prompting prosecutor Karen McDonald to seek communication restrictions, because even though she was told not to contact minors, this would obviously be if she posted bond, but the conditions also existed for her in jail. You
No.
can't talk to your kids who
Abusing
you're
them.
accused of
Exactly.
abusing, neglecting
Girl.
for 5 years. Oh, but she was trying to reach them. She was trying to relay messages to them, which obviously we can put two and two together, right?
Yep.
It would be threats. It would be
Every day.
coercive control from jail. Like, don't you say a damn word.
Yep.
You better lie to the police. You better not this and this, whatever it is. I can only
Exactly.
imagine. I don't have evidence of that, but I can imagine that's why this rule was even put in place in the first place. Now, at this preliminary hearing on May 16th, Detective Brish testified about meeting Kelly Bryant about an hour after they found the children. And he said she told him, yeah, I got a Lyft ride here, like Lyft, like Uber, like via the app,
Oh, yeah.
to the police station. And he was really struck
See?
by her clean
See
appearance.
that?
Her hair was done.
See
She had
that?
long fake nails
See
on,
that?
clean clothes. And while her children, of course, were in
Filth.
absolute squalor. Their toenails so long, they couldn't walk. They were covered in feces. They were weak. They were hungry. They were scared. And here she just casually rolls into the police station like,
Look
oh,
at
how?
her. Let me scoot that down some. Look at her. Looking better than me. See that? Yeah, you done picked up some weight, honey. You done gained about 50 pounds since you've been in jail. Eating them noodles. Clean. Hair done. Nails done. Wow.
Hi. All squeaky clean. Not a care in the world. She admitted that her actions were selfish, saying, I sacrificed my children, probably.
did.
I mean, what a line is that? I sacrificed my children, probably. And she knew that her neglect made them sick. Well, I hope they've got that all recorded, because that's a lot of
Exactly.
confessions right there. Detective Brish was surprised by how confident her admissions were. And she also told him that she lived within walking distance of the property, but she never touched her children or provided any hygiene products. She
Don't make no sense. Don't make no sense.
said that she'd actually been there once to rip out the batteries of a smoke alarm that was going off. Not because she was worried about that smoke alarm. No, she
She
didn't want
got
to draw
the
attention to
smoke
the
in the
apartment. That's what that was about. She went there
See?
to immediately silence that thing. And she said that on one other occasion, she had pulled into the garage, waited for her son to come out, handed him some food, and then waited for him to run back inside, and then she left. Wow.
Right.
2 whole times that she was there in all that time. The rest was DoorDash and Lyft and
Don't make no sense.
nothing else. Now, as we might imagine, in cases like this, we usually see somebody like this playing the victim. Yeah, that was right on cue. She asked the detectives, is there anything that I could do to help myself? She told the detective that she was going through something mentally. She'd asked the children's father to help, but he was unwilling, and that she was a victim of assault and had mental health problems because of it.
So why didn't you do something about that? Call the police or commit yourself to a hospital? Whatever.
Okay,
Thank
911 is
you.
pretty easy to call, right? Call the police, call
Exactly.
CPS, call your family. Yeah, I'm just
either.
not buying that. I'm just not buying that excuse. I mean, at least she's admitting that she had mental health problems, but yeah, she lied to all her family members about where the children were. I think they're now with grandparents, so the family would have loved to take care of them.
A
They
lot.
missed out on everything. And I mean, it's hard to even rattle off a list of what they missed out on, because it's so much, it's everything. Just
Yep.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Exactly.
Being tucked in at night. Story time. Education. Friends. Christmas. Thanksgiving.
that.
New Year's. Birthdays. Obviously,
All
all
that.
those special occasions. Learning things. Learning to ride a bike. Playing outside. Getting some sunshine.
Yep.
Having some water.
All that.
Basic needs and more. They do not
No, not at
deserve
all.
this. This
Very.
is horrific. That these children's own mother
So
is
sad.
accused of doing this. Now, by the sounds of it, police, and it would make sense, interviewed all the other family members, and they told them that they believed her cover stories. I know that makes a lot of people mad. It
You're
also
right.
made me mad too, because I'm like, but for 5 years you didn't see them. I feel like cover stories can only
Yes.
go so far.
That's
You
it.
know? So there may be a red flag raised at some point, and the lesson in this would be, if your gut is telling you something, man, follow it,
Yeah.
trust it, listen to it. Maybe check it out. Maybe ask more questions. Ask
Do
for a welfare
something.
check or
Exactly.
something, right? Shame, 5 years. Imagine the children trying to understand that everybody either forgot about them for 5 years or just believed what their mother was telling them.
We all knew she was a bad parent, but I don't think nobody really realized this was going on. I just don't know how the family don't know when they were so close. You went 4 or 5 years without seeing your
Exactly.
grandchildren. There was no questions.
Exactly.
So Assistant Prosecutor Kanika Ferenczi highlighted the children's irrational fears detailed in care house interviews, which Judge Walker found overwhelming evidence of mental
See?
and physical harm. One example is that one of the children claimed that she never used soap in her hair because she didn't have any, and even if she had some, she wouldn't have used it because she believed that it
Wow.
caused cancer. So there already you can hear what
See?
the mother had
Not
been
even
telling them, because kids are not just going to come up with that on their own, right? Prosecutors highlighted that Kelly Bryant not only made all these cover-up stories, but she took all these deliberate steps to shield her children from
See?
people who could have helped them, who could have
See?
loved them, taken care of them.
It's terrible.
Over the phone, their paternal grandpa, Samuel White, tells me he and the kids' father have been trying to see the kids for years.
But it just hurt because it's not the fact that she had to take them through that. Why would she do that and that wasn't the situation?
Samuel White Sr., the children's paternal grandfather, wants his son to have custody of the 3 children.
If not, bring them to the granddaddy in Texas and let's move forward and nourish these kids like they need to be.
They said that she prioritized hiding her children over their safety based on her telling detectives that she had been in there to deactivate a smoke detector so that it wouldn't attract attention. The children stopped going to school and were living in filth. I know. We're all going to ask, how did the school not notice? Why is there no alarms raised there? Like, what is going on? Apparently, obviously, COVID is a factor in all of this as well. Maybe she will find
I
out
was
later.
just
She
about
said,
to
oh,
say,
they're
I
going to be
think people start getting real crazy when COVID happened. They just took advantage on all levels to do whatever they need to do. It's sad, but they did.
homeschooled now. We're going to move them from one school to another. You know, we've seen this happen before, and it's very sad. And I think a lot of changes need to be made there worldwide as well. You know, 3 children just suddenly vanish and aren't in school at all. There should be like an alert system for that, right? And also, the prosecutors highlighted that the children couldn't reach out to family. They couldn't call for help because they didn't know their numbers. Now, again, I can already hear the victim blamers be like, why didn't they call 911? Why didn't they try to break out and run? Because that's not how.
They believed their mother, and their mother told them to do something, and they did it exactly as she installed in them, and that's all they know. They're just one of those kids that listen to their mother 100%. Even though it was a bad situation, they still listen to her. My child would never did that. She would have been out the door. She would have been out the window, hanging her baby dolls over the balcony. She would have been playing with the ants and the bugs and trying to pet the cats and the squirrels and a dog outside, the birds. That couldn't be my daughter. She would have been out that door 10 minutes after I left there.
How coercive control, neglect, abuse, fear, all of that works. They're children, right? Put in this horrific situation, not thinking like normal people do. And you know, in previous live streams, when we talked about this case, we did some map time, and it's just so ironic how close the police station was. That is so sad, right? And they were living in a really nice neighborhood as well. And just to know that this was happening in plain sight,
yes,
it's just so shocking. The defense attorney, Cecilia Quarindongo Bansu, argued that the children seemed articulate in interviews.
Really?
And so, like, what's the big deal, really, right? The judge said, no, there's enough evidence here for Kelly Bryant to go to trial.
Yes, it is.
It's overwhelming evidence.
Yes,
The case is truly shocking. Now, if convicted, Kelly Bryant faces up to life in prison for
Child
3
abuse,
counts of
exactly.
first-degree child abuse and up to 4 years or a $5,000 fine for the welfare fraud. The judge actually called this an extraordinary case with extraordinary circumstances. For those wondering, Kelly Bryant is represented
Appointed
by a
lawyer.
court-appointed attorney, so a public defender, due to indigence. She has no prior criminal record, which I'm sure her defense attorneys will highlight over and over again, but she reportedly had mental health and medical issues, which I understand that one could possibly potentially empathize with that. But man, when you have children, no, there must be something in there that you can reach real deep and be like, I need to tell some family about this
Exactly.
instead of lying. There's so many people to reach out to, all the family, friends, CPS, the police, 911, whoever, anyone. Tell anyone, because I'm sure most people are willing to help. We don't know if she really
She
contacted the
did not.
biological father or not,
She
and
didn't.
if he
She
was willing to
didn't.
help or not. We don't know, so we can't assume that's her story. She's the one accused, arrested, all of that. So we'll have to wait and see, especially when people are called to testify at the trial. I mean, remember at the beginning when I told you that this case would be about probably one of the most selfish
Yes.
mothers that we've ever heard of? Yeah, the detectives also said that they said they couldn't believe that throughout the interview with her,
See?
she just focused on herself. You know,
Right.
how could she help herself?
See?
What could she have done
She
better?
don't
She
care.
didn't have any real concerns or empathy,
See?
you know, for her children. She didn't ask,
See?
well, how are they
Who they
doing
with?
now? How are they doing when you went in there? Or say, I'm so sorry. It doesn't seem like there's any remorse from what we're hearing so far.
Selfish.
It's just truly devastating. And I mean, while the children are now being taken care of, I can only imagine how long it will take to heal from this. I mean, shame. That poor little girl, the 13-year-old girl, is stuttering and trying to get her words out and being like, I don't even understand why this is happening, why I'm even here. Like,
See?
what's wrong?
She only think the norm. I can't make this up.
Everything, shame. I will keep you posted. I'm so glad that we could cover the updates in this case. And I guess my final thought on this is, yeah, really be observant, because I think a lot of people, you know, stare at their phones these days. People walk around just looking at their phone. Nobody's really looking at each other or looking around or paying attention to what's going on around them. I'm not trying to blame the neighbors. I'm just saying, for us, what could we walk away with? I would say if you see something, say something. If you have a gut instinct about something, trust it. Your gut's trying to tell you something. And it's okay to make even an anonymous call for a welfare check. To just be like, I'm seeing food delivered here, but I never see a parent. I never see anyone here, even if it was an elderly person living there by themselves. It's maybe just someone to check on, right? Knock on the door and check on them. Care about your community, your neighbors, each other, of course. I feel like, the more that people are drowning in their phones, the less people care about each other so much. And I just think it's much needed, because otherwise things like this happen in plain sight. And what's so sad is it's probably happening all over the world right now to so many people. So yeah, I think it's up to us to even catalyze that difference, to pay attention, to call it in if we see something, and do our best. So thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments below. Let me know if you'd like me to, provide updates on this case, or let you know when the trial date is. As soon as I find out when the trial date is, I'll probably put a pinned comment. If you've never seen what a pinned comment is, it's right on top. It means I pinned it. And normally there's timestamps over there. There's maybe previous episodes over there. You can also just expand the description box and you'll find more details there, as well as a link to all of my sources. So I will see you again very soon. In the meantime, stay safe. To,
So that was it. And my final thoughts is, she said it all. If you don't ever see an adult, just check anyway, because you never know. The parent could have been sick. Anything. Just, if it's not normal what you're seeing, if you see too many kids and never a grown up outside, just at least still say something, because you could have saved their lives a long time ago. And I know people don't think like that. People don't be like, okay, let me go and check just randomly. And especially if it's your family members and you have not seen them in a while, check on them. That's just simple as that. Never let your family members go years without seeing them because something is wrong. Okay, so that's my final thought, and I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.